The public perception is that India doesn't deliver what it promises. There is a public perception
Mm-hmm.
there. Uh, Now, politics and diplomacy has a lot to do with perceptions. And China, on the other
Of
hand,
course.
says something today and delivers it yesterday.
Welcome to the gist on Stat News Global. I'm Ramananda Sengupta. Our very, very special guest today is Ambassador Shamsher M Chowdhury, former Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh and Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Germany, Vietnam, and the US. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. It's a pleasure to have you with us as always.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you. And it's a great pleasure talking to Strat News. I've always enjoyed speaking to you, and I have very high respect for the intellectual quality of the discourse that takes place in Strat News. And thank you for sharing some of your links with me. You see, one of my favorite themes, and I guess it started when I was first posted in Italy in the 1970s. There's a famous saying that all roads lead to Rome. Now, when they say roads, basically it was the Roman Empire's desire to connect itself with the rest of Europe and going even beyond. So it's like more than 2000 years that the importance of connectivity was realized by as old as the Roman civilization. Countries have grown on how well connected they are, not only within themselves, but also with the neighbors and going beyond the neighbors. Now, if you look at, I think South Asia has lagged behind in strengthening or even building up connectivity to begin with. After 1971, when Bangladesh became an independent country, where India had played a very, very important role, in fact, I always said had played a very decisive role in helping us, get our freedom from the Pakistan. Connectivity should have been the first item on the agenda. How do we connect? Why should we now we are not hampered by the Pakistani thinking anymore? So why shouldn't Bangladesh and India connect? My mother-in-law's, my mother's family comes from Assam, from Karimganj, and my mother-in-law's family, they come from Kachar, and I'm from Sylhet, which is next door to Karimganj. We are connected from my village to my mother's village, my village in Sylhet to my mother's village in Karimganj by the Kushiara River. People have been plying on that by boat for ages. Now, of late, of course, connectivity between Bangladesh and India has grown, absolutely exponentially in terms of road connections, air connections, rail connections. Maritime connections have been slow to pick up, but it is picking up. Riverine connections, because so many of the rivers that run through our two countries, going from west in Bengal and going to our east in Assam and Tripura and all the rest of it. So this is something that we should focus on. Now, I always argued whenever I was spoken to my Indian friends, and they've been very kind to listen to me, whether it was talking in Delhi or in Guwahati, I've said that we have greatly and visibly enhanced our connectivity, but is it still seamless? When you cross from Chutarkandi in Sylhet to Karimganj in India, from the Bangladesh side, it still has a lot of desire in building the right quality of the road, the right immigration and customs system, and the sight of a 70-year-old woman who's not, well, and having to drag her own suitcase across the Bangladesh part of the land, immigration, and then go onto the Indian side, shows that we still have a long way to go. I must say that on the Shutarganti side, from the Indian area, the immigration and customs system is far, far smoother than what we have done on the Bangladesh side. One argument that the immigration people in Bangladesh gave me is because this is not so developed, because not too many people use it. I said, look, it's the chicken and egg question. You develop the system, people will start using it
Oh,
because it is so well close to so much, so such an important, highly inhabited part of Sylhet, who will prefer to go to Sutarkandi than to Dauki. But because you have not built the system, the buses go on rough roads and lose their axles and everything, let alone taking a good car. But it's far smoother in the on the Dauki side or on other side. So we have built connectivity. It is still seamless, not seamless. It is improving. The visa
mhm.
system, I think, on both sides have improved a lot. I think the Indian visa office in Dhaka is issuing the highest number of visas to any country in the world. Huge lines are always there.
Mhm.
Let me now talk connectivity beyond our bilateral frame. Our bilateral frame, I think the
Right.
commitment governments on both sides is very clear, very strong, have been articulated very clearly by leaders and by others on both countries. But how do we then go beyond? If you can travel from Copenhagen to south of deep south of Germany or even go down to Greece, why shouldn't I be able to go to Thailand from Bangladesh or from India? Maybe a
Mhm.
little long, take a little longer time. The current situation, I mean, the current obstacle is actually the situation in Myanmar, because from
Right.
India to Thailand or from Bangladesh to Thailand, you have to cross Myanmar. And the internal situation in
Right.
Myanmar, to say the internal situation in Myanmar is troublesome, is actually minimizing the real extent. Yesterday, had long discussions, and I'm now in Thailand. I had long discussions with very experienced Thai senior former diplomats and other people who do a lot of work on all these things and who have deep connections in India as well. They are saying that Myanmar is like a mountain standing between connectivity, increasing connectivity. So my thought that we cannot change main things in Myanmar overnight. Myanmar will have to take care of itself, how the
Mhm.
situation turns out in Myanmar. There are also security issues. It is next to our
Right.
neighbor, your neighbor, China's neighbor, Thailand's neighbor. Everybody has a problem with the internal situation. So in the meantime, why don't we focus on connectivity, on maritime connectivity from Chittagong to Thailand or from
Uh-huh.
India via Chittagong to Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, all that time would be much easier
Right.
and much simpler, much economical as
Mhm.
well. And we could even develop strong tourism. So unless, when you talk of, well, we don't talk about integration right now, but India's Look East policy fits into this very easily. Now, I'm not trying to take credit where it is not due, but when I became foreign secretary in 2001 in Bangladesh, uh, my
Mhm.
first two, as foreign secretary, my first two proposals to the political leadership, that is the foreign minister and the prime minister and the cabinet, was that A, let us try to manage our relations with India much
Mhm.
better in a mutually beneficial way. And B, focus on looking east. You know, with the Western countries and
Mhm.
China, Europe, and all this is the pattern is always already set. But it is the countries
Right.
in the east, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam,
Mhm.
that is where we need to focus on. Now, our prime
Right.
minister was very recently in Thailand on a bilateral visit. And the
Mhm.
day she and the present Thai Prime Minister Sretha signed a number of agreements and MOUs, it was front page photographic news in the Bangkok Post. I do not
Oh.
foresee such high level media coverage when our Prime Minister were to visit even Portugal or Greece, forget about France, England, or Germany. It was literally a
Mhm.
banner headline. Bangladesh,
Right.
Thailand, Inc. 11 MOUs and agreements. So this shows that our trade
Mhm.
may not be massive. The United States will continue to remain our largest export market. Uh, uh,
Right.
European Union will be number 2. But
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of other areas that we can cooperate with countries like Thailand, Myanmar, Indonesia, especially now with the Rohingya crisis as we are facing. So here
Right.
the need for connectivity, pending the change of situation in Myanmar, we can focus on. I mean, let us build a BIMSTEC, for example, Ramanathan. I mean, BIMSTEC, frankly, has not moved much. It's been 26, 27
Right.
years, and it has not moved much. So let us focus on a Bay-based Vietnam. Bay-based BIMSTEC. Its name is Bay of Bengal
Mm-hmm.
Initiative. So let us focus on the Bay-based
That's right, sir.
BIMSTEC and develop
Mm-hmm.
transport, human activity, using the maritime ways that are available to all of us very easily, and protect them against any kind of, well, the piracy doesn't happen here much, but move all the way down
Right.
to Singapore and down to Australia. This will also fit in
Mm-hmm.
to my advocacy and this is my personal advocacy of focusing
Mm-hmm.
or making sure that the Indo-Pacific becomes a key area for us. Now, I'm not saying that we should join the Indo-Pacific strategy straight away. I mean, it's not, but that we have an Indo-Pacific
Right.
outlook. We haven't moved much from the outlook. Outlook is just an intent, or like, okay, we know there is
Right.
an Indo-Pacific, but how do we move on from there? We announced the outlook, 3-4 years ago. Since then, we have not moved forward. So let us focus on a maritime-based BIMSTEC and beyond. Like Thailand is BIMSTEC, but Indonesia
Mm-hmm.
is not BIMSTEC. But Indonesia is not too far. It's close to
Right.
Nicobar and Andaman Islands. So that
Mm-hmm.
fits into this connectivity all the way. Why shouldn't Bangladeshis go to spend holidays in Andaman or Nicobar? I mean, the port, I forget the name of the port in Nicobar, which is a very big tourist destination for Indians now. We can focus on
Mm-hmm.
that. And that way, I think it'll make it much easier to go on that side. And then on the west, we can think of much deeper connectivity with Sri Lanka,
Of
through
course.
India. And I think this is very, very
Mm-hmm.
important. Now, in one virtual seminar of this kind that was held in Guwahati a couple of years ago, I was
Right.
joining virtually from Dhaka. The Indian Assam government
Mm-hmm.
chief secretary was there, senior politician there. We had Bangladesh representation there. The
Right.
Indian MEA was also represented. I said the sun rises in the east. So let us look at the east first. And I
Uh-huh.
look forward to a day, hopefully in my lifetime, where I can have a breakfast in Agartala, a Hilsa lunch in Dhaka, and a late dinner in Kolkata in the same day.
Wow.
This would the goal I would like to set for us. And I think Bangladesh and India are best placed to work on that kind of thinking. Now, I hope I'm not being too ambitious, but when I was ambassador in Germany, I drove from Bonn all the way down to Greece in 36 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so why can't I do that the same between India, Bangladesh, and then even looking further east to Thailand and looking further west, even down to central part of India in Hyderabad, for example.
Right.
Why not taste the
Mm-hmm.
Hyderabad biryani and compare it to Dhaka biryani?
I would love to join you for that. But so,
Sure, most welcome.
coming back to the connectivity between the two of us, I mean, with bilateral ties, we also have now, some kind of a transit system which connects to India's northeast states through the waterways and all that. Is there a possibility of that being extended further outwards beyond Bangladesh?
Sure,
Can the waterways also be
sure.
used?
Yeah, sure. But to which country? I mean, uh, is it Myanmar? Is Myanmar ready to do that? I don't know which part of the river system in Thailand connects us there.
Mm-hmm.
But we can always look at it. Why not? Why not look at that as a possibility?
Uh-huh.
Somehow But I think China will also, if we go to Thailand, then we can go to Laos as well. And Mekong River
Right. Hmm.
is something that we can link up
Hmm.
with uh, if we have the right vision and the right political will to do it. I think we have both India and Bangladesh has developed the technology. We can bring in others to play into a
Hmm.
role in that. I don't think China will have a problem with that. I hope they don't. But let us, think big. I mean, we always say think big, aim high. If you want to throw a stone over
Hmm.
the electrical line, you have to aim higher than the electrical line to make sure that it crosses the
Of
electrical
course.
line over your head. So let's think high. Both
So,
India and Bangladesh are
mhm,
countries that have enormous self-confidence right now. We have issues, we have challenges with the Russia's war in Ukraine and now with Gaza situation, and the situation
mhm,
in Myanmar. But these are things that will not last forever. Nations last much longer than problems. So let us look beyond and think of widening and lengthening that connectivity.
mhm. So another question that keeps cropping up every now and then, particularly when we talk about connectivity vis-a-vis India, this has come from places like Myanmar, perhaps even Bangladesh, is that while India tends to talk a lot and promises a lot, when it comes to actual delivery, there's a glitch. Unlike, let's say, China, which just does it overnight. How valid is that argument?
Well, in the Bangladeshi mind, and very frankly, Ramanandan, the public perception is that India doesn't deliver what it promises. There is a public perception
Hmm.
there. Now, politics and diplomacy has a lot to do with perceptions. And China, on the other
Of
hand,
course.
says something today and delivers it yesterday. Uh, One thing
Right.
I would like to look at little more objectively. There's a higher degree of accountability in India. You have perhaps the accountability uh, becomes too much bureaucratic. I guess bureaucracy can be managed in a
Hmm.
manner that it has to speed up, it has to catch up. In China, not only do they have deep pockets, but they can dish out money without too much auditing like goes on. I mean, they've done it as far as deep in Africa. So I think this perception
Hmm.
that India delivers less than it promises also is linked to the sharing of the waters of our common rivers. Number one. Number
Hmm.
two, the border killings have not stopped. Whatever might
Right.
be the logic, um, you know, this is something that hurts every
Hmm.
Bangladeshi very very deeply. That okay, successive
Right.
Indian prime ministers have promised to bring the figures down to zero. It has not happened, and even on auspicious days, we see 26th of March, which was the Independence Day of Bangladesh. A Bangladeshi was killed somewhere near the Rajshahi border while he was actually running back to Bangladesh. He crossed it
Hmm.
legally, but as he was running back, the BSF opened fire on him, and
Oh.
he died on the Indian side of the border. So, and that
Hmm.
rankles, in the minds of the people. But this is something that needs to be addressed
So,
very seriously from the Indian side.
mhm. So the other thing that sort of, while it may not be connectivity in a very, very specific sense, is that I believe that now we have a system wherein we actually connect uh, Bangladesh with Nepal for power transmission. Do you think that sort of will act as a, toehold for better and bigger things?
I fully agree with you. I think my answer would be in one word would be yes, because we are all
Hmm.
facing energy security, right? We are all having issues of
Hmm.
energy security. We are in
Hmm.
dependent. Bangladesh is dependent on imported, sources of power generation. So
Right.
this grid connectivity, electrical grid connectivity, I think is very very
Hmm.
critical. From Nepal, from Bhutan to Bangladesh through India, and all four
Right.
of us should sit down and find out the best ways to do it. Now, from experience, Ramanathan, I can tell you when I was Deputy High Commissioner in Canada, one of the biggest trade, the Canadians call it trade, item between Canada and India is power supply, electric supply. Canada has huge surplus of hydroelectricity because they have these large rivers on the eastern side, on the Quebec side, on the Ontario side. And the US buys billions of dollars of hydropower from Canada. This is something that is a very lasting bonding between the US and Canada. In this case, this is a smaller country supplying to a much larger country. But the trade between Canada and US is always in Canada's favor, mainly because of this sale of power, hydropower from Canada to the US.
Right.
So I don't think Nepal and Bhutan and Nepal certainly has surplus. And I think we should find out the easiest and arrangement that are affordable for all sides, beneficial for all sides, and then bring them over. Right now I understand, I may be wrong, that Nepal can sell electricity to an Indian company and Bangladesh has to buy that from that Indian company. Why can we not get away with the media source? Bring it direct from Nepal to Bangladesh and pay India such as because it transits through Indian territory. So instead of having it selling to Indian company and Indian company then selling it to Bangladesh, that increases the price. Among other things. So let us look at this power connectivity, grid connectivity as a very, very important issue. And BIMSTEC, I think, can play a role because both Bhutan and Nepal are members of BIMSTEC.
Right. So you mentioned politics as one of the key factors when we talk about connectivity and things like that. Bangladesh has just had elections, and of course, there's going to be continuity given that Sheikh Hasina has come back. We are already in the process of elections, and there'll be elections. But how would you sort of, be able to minimize the impact of politics when it comes to these things? You mentioned that earlier, that sometimes politics comes into play and that sort of impacts things. How does one do that? What kind of systems and processes are necessary to do that?
Well, there are a number of ways to answer that question, number of issues to address here. First of all, the very birth of Bangladesh as an independent state was based on the political linkage between the Bangladesh government in exile and the government in India under Mrs. Indira Gandhi. So at that time, politics played a very positive role in getting India because it was a high-risk game by India to get involved militarily in the what is happening in a neighboring state. But what happens is there are groups in Bangladesh which play the India card at election time. Now, last 2 elections, or rather 2 out of the last 3 elections, the India card was almost invisible. The major political forces, which is the Awami League and the BNP, Awami League never played the India card. BNP also decided very wisely that, India card should not be a political issue here. Let us focus on our own democracy and accountability and fair election. But although the governments or people publicly did not comment on the Citizenship Amendment Act in India, when I was asked in talk shows here in Bangladesh and also from India, I was asked that this is an internal matter of India. I said, yes, it's a totally an internal matter of India. But if your constitutional amendment, any amendment, has the name of Bangladesh in it, it does not necessarily remain an internal matter anymore.
Right.
Because your Citizenship Amendment Act said that Muslims from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan will not be allowed. Now, there are 2 issues here. A, we have a very good relation with India. Why did you have to bring Bangladesh into the basket? And B, we broke away from Pakistan with India's help.
Right.
Why are you not bracketing us with Pakistan? So this was a very hot
that's a
issue in
point
Bangladesh.
to make. Yes.
Yeah. It's a very hot
Mm-hmm.
issue in Bangladesh. People like me, tried to calm the fires down on the television talk shows, and I don't know how many people are listening. But the fact remains that this was and remains an issue in Bangladesh. Now, the relationship between the two governments in Delhi and Dhaka right now are very warm, very uh, cordial, a lot of understanding, a lot of goodwill. But then at the end of the day, people will say, okay, they have bracketed us with Pakistan, through the
Mm-hmm.
CAA, which is an internal matter of India, but my country's name has been mentioned there. So does it remain totally an internal matter of India? But okay, we'll have to live with it. Now, one way to deal with an issue when it comes to like this, I went to Guwahati a couple of years ago, leading a team of freedom fighters. This was officially organized by the government of Assam and the MEA. I led the team, and I had an hour and a
Mm-hmm.
half long meeting with the chief minister, Himanshu,
Okay.
Himanshu, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Himanshu Biswa Sharma, right? At his office, and I and my
Right.
whole team had an hour and a half long meeting, and he was very warm in his mention of Bangladesh, very thankful to our prime minister, saying that because of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's zero tolerance of giving protection to Indian insurgents, the people of Assam can now sleep at night in peace. And this has enabled us to make such developments. And at the same time, when I went around Guwahati and even to Meghalaya and Shillong at the trip, and I was in Silchar also a few months later after Guwahati, you can see
Mm-hmm.
Bangladeshi products openly in the Indian markets in Guwahati. I was so impressed, I was so proud to see a Bangladeshi company like Pran, which is a very big company in Bangladesh, Hatil, which is a very big company in
Right.
Bangladesh. Uh, they are having outlets in Guwahati, 3 or 4 outlets in Guwahati. And a similar thing is
Mm-hmm.
happening in Agartala, and using Agartala, Pran is using Agartala as a transshipment point to move goods all the way down to Mizoram and Manipur. Now, these are the benefits. So let us keep CAA on the side. That's a political issue. We cannot do anything about it. But let trade, because it is
Right.
beneficial for states in eastern India to buy from Bangladesh than to buy it all the way from the western side. And as far as quality is concerned,
Absolutely.
on these items, our quality can match any quality in India. So that's why I found, and I
Mm-hmm.
told my hosts and the chief secretary of the Assam government at that time, that look at it. I mean, I feel so good when I see a Bangladeshi shop operating legally. I mean, they're not termites. They're illegal. They're totally legal, and they're doing good business. So let us
Right.
focus on these markets in the east, develop people-to-people contact with the eastern parts of India. I mean, chances of our Bangladeshi product being found in Tamil Nadu are far less than chances of being found in Agartala, for example. So yes, I think these trade
Right. Of course.
politics does
But it
play
shouldn't
a
be that way.
role.
They should be found in Tamil Nadu as well.
Well, I'm sure it will reach Tamil Nadu someday. But what I'm saying that okay, politics, will be there.
Right.
We are all products of politics, and in our part of the world, we see politics even when there
Mm-hmm.
isn't any. But let us keep politics there. We'll discuss this politics, but let not politics hamper our trade, our economic relationship, Indian investments in Bangladesh, Bangladeshi investments in India, and build a stronger tie that Bangladesh and India become a zone of shared prosperity. Shared prosperity, and then spread it out to the rest of South Asia, especially Nepal, Bhutan, and maybe even to Sri Lanka.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. On that very, very positive note, sir, I'm afraid we are running out of time. So let me just, close this particular interview. And thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this with us, sir. And I really look forward to having you with us again.
Thank you very much,
Thank you, sir.
Nandan. It's always a pleasure talking to you and to Strap News.
That was Ambassador Shamsher M Chowdhury, former Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh, talking to us about inland connectivity between the two countries and the opportunities and challenges that it presents. We also spoke about things that went beyond Bangladesh, right out into the Indo-Pacific region. I do hope you enjoyed this particular episode of The Gist. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till we meet again, this is Ramananda Sengupta signing out.